trust can take years. And so if you bring in a new person continually...
I've been working with you for years and I only trust you right
You
now.
only trust me now.
Hey, and welcome to Conversations for Small Group Leaders. So excited to have you here. And in today's video, we're going to be discussing adding new people into your group. So sit down, get comfy, and let's get into the conversation. Well, welcome here. I'm Chris, and I'm here with Dana. Welcome here, Dana, to your own home. Yes.
Thanks, Chris.
And this is new. We haven't done this before, but we're going to have a conversation today about adding new people into a small group. And so I'm excited about it. But before we do that, I want to ask you something super important that has nothing to do with adding new people into the small group. Dana Lone, what percentage of milk do you drink?
0.
Why is that?
I do not drink milk.
What?
I do not drink milk.
Oh, so it's not 0% milk. It's
I drink 0 milk. I do not drink milk. I think milk is very disgusting.
Wow.
And so I do not drink any form of fluid milk.
Gross.
When my mom weaned me off the bottle at 11 months old, I have not had a glass of milk since.
It's like a extra Nazarite vow.
Yep.
So
no milk for me.
No milk for you.
In fact, you would probably not find any milk in this house.
Wow. Okay, that's rough.
We don't eat cereal for breakfast.
Okay. Well, I'm really glad I asked you this question because I needed to get to know you in that way. I drink 2% if you were curious. Okay. So, all right. Well, let's get on to the serious stuff, shall we?
Yep.
So we're talking today about adding new people into a small group, something that leaders have come to me with a question of over the years, no doubt to you as well, because it can be a really difficult thing to add a new person in, or to know, is your group ready to add a new person in, how to add a new person in. So we're going to ask a couple questions. I'm going to ask you a few questions. I'll maybe add some thoughts into it. But the first question I want to ask you, Dana, is, should small groups always take new people in? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, that's a tricky question because I don't think the answer is either a firm yes or a firm no. I think some of these, a question like that really needs to be a one-on-one conversation with the leader based on what's going on in that particular group. So there might be times where a cell is in a very vulnerable position and adding a new person would just not be a healthy step for a group to take. So I think that's important to say off the top is that I don't think we should have a firm rule that everybody should always be willing to take people in all the time. But taking new people into a cell is actually an important step for a cell to take, as having new people can have a lot of impact within the group. So again, I think there should be a willingness, there should be an availability that's there for cells, and then to kind of figure out what are the dynamics in the group, what does the group need, will this strengthen the group, will this hinder the group. So if a group, for example, is going through a tough time, there's a season, maybe some people in the group are really struggling in certain areas of their personal lives. Maybe there's a big marriage crisis that's going on, or maybe there's been a group of people in the cell that have been struggling with a lot of health issues, and the cell just wants to come around those people for a period of time. That would make a lot of sense then to just not bring new people in.
Right.
But if a cell is continuing and they're just going through the motions and going through the motions and going through the motions, and they're never thinking about growth, that can actually become a barrier to going deeper with God in a group. So
yeah, I like that. I think something that a lot of leaders will immediately feel is relief when you say there's actually time and place to say no to adding a new person, which a lot of small group leaders, when they're new at it in a church capacity, that's often in an interview for a small group leader. One of the first things I get asked is like, how does that work? Or are you going to make me take in new people? Do I initiate that process? But a lot of small group leaders, just simply saying yes to leading a group at the beginning is a big enough hurdle for them. That's a big enough leap of faith, so to speak, that the thought of adding new people right away or continuously adding new people is daunting. And I think a lot of leaders are going to feel relief in hearing you say, there's actually a time to say, our group needs to form right now. Our group needs to learn how to gel well with the people that we have. Or we're going through a season right now, like you said, with, whether it's health stuff or whether it's, relational stuff, if it's a couples group, that it's okay to say, you know what, our group just needs to be the way that it is right now. I think that's great.
And what you mentioned about gelling, I think is really important too. It can take a few months, sometimes even over a year, for a group to really gel, especially a new group, and for trust to build. Trust is built over a period of not days, not weeks, not even months. Trust can take years. And so if you bring in a new person continually... I've been working with
you for years and I only trust you right
you
now.
only trust me now. Yeah. But if you're constantly bringing in new people, then people may hold back on their sharing because it takes a while to realize, can I trust this person? And so they might actually start sharing a little bit more at a shallow level. Yeah. So I think this is like there's a lot of chemistry within a cell, and there's a lot of things to think about when adding new people. And so can the trust level in the cell is at the level where they need to bring in a new person for growth or for stagnancy reasons. So there's a lot of things to consider when bringing in a new person to a cell group.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a really good key word is consider. What I've often said to my leaders when they've asked me, like either they've asked me about adding a new person or I've approached them about adding a new person, and they will get to this question of, well, should I take in new people? I think my answer is, if I had to give a very short answer, I would say, no, you do not have to take in new people. But I think that it's good for a leader or for a group to be in the spot of considering adding new people. If you're at least open to considering adding new people, you can still get the benefit that brings, being outward focused, not just focused on your small group, not just focused on your friends. You get that added benefit, even if you say, no, now's not the right time. It's just a completely different, it's a different place to be considering, as opposed to like, no, we are not adding no one in. So I think that was a key word you said.
One other thing I want to mention as well is I sometimes have cell leaders that call me or email me and specifically ask me the question, can I invite a new person into my cell? It's like they think they have to have the church's permission. The answer is 100% yes. If you as a leader feel like you want to invite a new person into your cell, yes, invite that new person into your cell.
Yeah, like actually, that's the way that we want it to work. Sometimes we will reach out to small groups and ask, are you ready to take in a new person? Like that does happen where we get random people asking to get into a small group. But by far the option that we would prefer is small groups growing organically, as in, hey, there's a friend that we would love to invite to cell. Can we bring them in? We've found over the years that those placements are actually the ones that often stick more than just a random person being brought in.
Yep.
Although I'm not saying that random people being brought in is always bad, but definitely we would prefer that.
Yeah. Just think of chemistry. If you invite a friend to something, they'll probably find it an easier fit than going into a group where there's a massive amount of strangers and they're feeling like, I'm that new person and I don't know anybody.
Yeah. And food always helps.
Food.
If you're welcoming new people in,
bring food.
Bring food.
Yeah.
Make them bring food. That's a good idea.
And then decide if you want to keep them in your cell or not. We like those brownies. You can stay.
Yeah. Oh, you brought veggies and dip. I don't think this is going to work.
This is not going to work.
No. Yeah. Okay. Second question that I have for you today, Dana. We mentioned a little bit of the benefits already. You've been alluding to them, but let's just flesh that out a bit. What are the benefits, in your opinion, to adding new people into a group?
One of the benefits, I think, is just growth. And I'm not just talking numeric growth. I'm talking personal growth. Yeah. So we can get into ruts in our personal lives. And this happens in all areas of our life where we just are going through the motions and we're getting to a rut in an area of our life. Bringing in a new couple or a new person into your cell actually causes you to think about, what am I sharing? Why am I sharing? What are we doing at cell? Are we meeting the purposes of cell? Are we doing what we're supposed to be doing when it comes to word and prayer? Or have we just turned into a social group? Yeah. And so bringing in a new person can really help the cell to go deeper. It can refocus the cell. It can cause us to get out of those personal ruts, and it can help even with personal individual growth barriers. It can also really help if sometimes cells can turn into a little bit of a social club where people become so familiar with each other and it becomes really difficult to go deeper. Yeah. And so you bring a new person in and then it actually refocuses you back to the purpose. We are a cell group. We are here for discipleship. And so those are all some of the benefits that I see.
Something that we were talking about growing in a small group. I think that that's super important, adding new people in. When you were talking about the purpose of a group, I think that the purpose of small groups are, in a sense, to be reaching out. And we often think of like reaching out being something that a small group does together, like a serving, that kind of thing. Certainly those are awesome opportunities. We've had that before where there are certain, outreach things that we can do together as a cell. But how I view small groups functioning, and even if you look into the New Testament, how you saw them functioning in Acts, was the small group was coming together to strengthen and encourage each other to go out and do the mission and the work of the gospel. And so I think that adding new people can really keep people's eyes open to there's mission beyond the walls of, the home that I open up once a week for cell. There's a mission to a greater culture. There's a mission to the greater community that you live in than the 10 plus people that you have joining you each week for cell.
Absolutely.
And simply being in a place of considering bringing new people in, or who else in the community would benefit from the small group that I'm getting such life from, right away will bring life into your group, considering that and bringing new people in. I think that's important.
Yeah.
Well, okay, then last question that I have for you. What are the logistics? When we talk about adding someone new into your group, what are the logistics? What are the processes that you've seen valuable in bringing someone into a small group?
Well, first of all, I think it's really important for the leaders of the group to spend some time with that new person before they come to the group. So head out for coffee and get to know them. Find out about their family, especially if you don't know the person and a stranger is coming in. If it's somebody that's within your sphere of influence and they're your friend already, then you kind of have that background information. But meet with them, talk to them about the expectations for cell. It's expected that you bring a Bible, that you bring a journal. We're going to pray out loud. And so they kind of know what to expect when they're going to walk in the door for that very first time.
I want to highlight two things that you just said. First, on that expectation piece, I think that's huge to give people a proper understanding of what they're coming to. Because for some people, if they get invited to join a small group, we talked about social clubs or whatever, they might be confused and almost annoyed with, Kate, we've done so much spiritual stuff already. Like, when are we going to get to the fun? And a cell group, by the way, should have a healthy mix of both. I believe that we should have fun as a cell. We should eat together. We should play games. Like, there's a place for that. But you actually want to properly sell the expectations to a new person who's coming into a small group that this is a place where we're being intentional with a day of the week to meet together, to grow in things like our habit of prayer together, like mining the scriptures together, keeping each other accountable and goal setting. I think that's hugely important. And then the other piece you said, meet with that person one-on-one for coffee, not just so that you can get to know them and how they fit in with their group, but for a new person coming in, they will immediately have a higher buy-in and trust for you as a leader if they've seen you take the time to reach out to them and go for coffee.
For sure.
And they'll feel cared for right from the start, which is a great thing to begin your relationship with them.
The other thing would be to also prepare the rest of your cell members or your small group members that a new person is coming. And so letting them know we have a new person that's going to be coming. Let's make sure we're engaging. Let's remember that we are going to invite them into the conversation. We're going to ask them questions about themselves. We're going to make sure that we are very warm and very welcoming. Those cell members or small group members should arrive early so that when the new person comes, they're not like the first person to arrive. And then be ready to say, hey, maybe you specifically ask somebody, can you pray with that person today? So that when you break into small groups to pray, immediately somebody's like, hey, come pray with me. So just preparing the group for that kind of stuff is really, really an important step. Yeah.
And kind of my closing thoughts on this are, you might wonder, well, how do I get my group to embrace this idea of bringing new people in? I would say that this is something that you want to get in the culture of your group. You can't just expect your group to be okay with, if they've been meeting together for years already, you can't just expect them to right away feel excited about bringing someone in. But that's where talking about as a cell, the mission of reaching out and how what we have at Cell we can't be selfish with it. We want to include other people. We want to make sure that other people have amazing community like this, where they're growing in their walk with God alongside of other people. Even if you're not planning on bringing new people in at the moment, I would recommend to leaders to start talking to your group about things like this now already, so that when the conversation comes up, you have a new person who would want to join your group. It's not a new thought to your group. I think that will help tremendously.
And pray about it. Even pray about it as a group.
Yeah.
Who should we be inviting? Is there a person you want us to reach out to?
Yeah.
And then take weeks or months to let the Holy Spirit guide.
I like that.
Yeah.
I actually like that a lot. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I think that about covers my end of it. Do you have anything else you want to add?
This has been fantastic. It's great to have these conversations.
Yeah, awesome. So a little recap is, should small groups always take people in? The answer would be no, but being considerate of adding other people in, I think, is an essential part to being a healthy small group, is that wanting to reach out to other people, wanting other people to have good community as well. So I think that about sums it up. Thanks so much for joining us for this conversation. Again, I'm Chris. This is Dana, the Wiser. And we'll see you again in the next conversation.